All right. Uh, Welcome to Learneezee Cast, episode 11, Rico. We've made it to episode 11. Could you believe it?
I'm pumping them out.
Yeah. We're working on it. We're working on it. Um, as always, we like to start with our segment of what's on your mind.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
I kind of start off, but I
yeah.
think we were talking, pre-show, something that's on probably a lot of people's mind. But what's been on your mind, Pat?
Oh, um, yeah. What happened January 6th is on my mind. What I witnessed, obviously from a distance in Germany, shocked me a bit, but I wasn't like truly surprised. I was just a little saddened by this kind of protest that devolved into a riot and cost people's lives, and for some reason, I don't understand. No, I understand that Donald Trump actually allowed this to happen, and he is responsible, and he should be impeached. And I see that the impeachment proceedings will occur very rapidly, which is good because you don't want the people to forget. Or I heard that Mitch McConnell wanted to reschedule the impeachment proceedings for a month from now,
But
basically.
I think they decided on February 8th. Is that right?
Yes. So it's happening, much faster than the Republicans would like.
Sure. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, I know maybe you need to give somebody who's going to be on trial time to, get his team together or whatever. But I just don't know how much hope I hold out really for 17 Republicans to vote in favor of impeachment. You know, or ousting, whatever the correct term is. He's already been impeached, but in
Yeah,
regards to
that's an
mock.
excellent point, Rico. Donald Trump still runs the Republican Party from a distance. So, in a sense, if they do choose, if you find 17 Republicans that choose to impeach him, they are basically risking their political careers. And that would show some courage, though, right? And I would love to see that, but I don't think very many politicians, especially on the Republican side, are known to be courageous and able to stand up to Donald Trump. Yeah.
When I think on some levels, if there are not 17, let's say there are 16 or fewer,
Hmm.
I think those 16, the aftermath would be especially difficult. If there are 17, it could perhaps be political suicide. It could be an end to their political careers. But I think at least it would set the tone of what side of the aisle they're on and what they feel is best for the Republican Party. Not that I associate with that side of politics, but I think I've even heard that Mitch McConnell is really feeling in personal conversations like he wants him removed.
Hmm.
Um, Only time will tell, right? We never know. I think that's the one thing I've learned is that when it comes to predictions, I didn't think that the two Georgia senators were going to win, elections. So we don't
Hmm.
know what's going to happen. And 2021 there's a real new hope
Yep.
in the air and just so many. And so if that brings me to what's on my mind.
Yeah. Tell me.
I
Yes.
know you're in Germany 8 hours ahead of Mountain Standard Time, 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So for the
Yes.
inauguration, it was 10 o'clock in the morning my time. So it was probably in the evening for you, right? So
Yes.
seeing the inaugural Youth Poet Laureate,
Hmm.
Amanda Gorman, 22 years old, African American from LA, who coincidentally, I'm a twin. She's a twin.
Oh,
Uh,
I didn't know this. Okay, cool.
yeah, so Amanda Gorman went to film school in UCLA. But what's really interesting, I think, is I mean, apart from giving a fantastic performance that was just so poignant, she was just so. It was not just about the poetry, but it was her performance. I guess she kind of came from the slam poetry world as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah.
You say, but how you say it, and just it was just a beautiful recital. I think she just really said what needed to be said at the time. And what's really interesting about Amanda Gorman, in addition to, of course, being a super talented poet and wordsmith and whatnot, is that she actually had a speech impediment.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Even through some of her college years, she said she had problems and trouble pronouncing certain sounds. And just in my line of work, working with language, I found
Yeah.
that. And even myself, I've had a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say a stutter, but at times just some issues. At times, gathering my thoughts or being able to say what I want. So
Mhm.
thought it was really especially profound to have somebody who's had her own personal struggles
Mhm.
with to be able to be just so confident and just deliver this performance that was just otherworldly. And I think that's just what the world needed, you know?
Exactly, and I heard a lot of commentary from my colleagues here in Germany, and they were just so impressed with her and her how she basically became the star of this whole inauguration, really, and they're looking forward to seeing her be very successful. Apparently, her books have sold out, even though they haven't
And
been
already sold.
published yet. Yeah,
Yeah. She's a tour de force. And I think that she has aspirations herself of politics. She wants to run for president in 2036. So, it's great to see young people who are doing amazing things, people of color,
yes,
women of color.
yeah, yeah,
So I feel like there's just a new hope, right? That's like the
wonderful.
tagline of 2021.
Hmm.
I guess the last thing on my mind is
Hmm.
just the Bernie Sanders meme, the,
Classic.
grump, the grumpy chic
Yes.
who sitting there with the mittens, and how that's kind of been the new, like, the cat meme that was
It, exactly.
20, I guess, maybe, or was that 2019? I don't even remember, but yeah, man. So there's just a new hope.
Yeah, exactly. He's been immortalized in this way. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to say something else, Pat?
No, no. I think. What do you think? Are we ready?
Yeah, I think it's just a good time to transition, right, to
Yeah.
our weekly, or not weekly, excuse me, our segment of interviewing interesting guests. And
Yeah.
this interview, a really exciting interview, this episode
Yeah.
with Liz Meinhofer. So let's go to the interview and learn all about what she's been able to accomplish in her young life, and let's see what we can all learn from her expertise.
Yep. Let's do it.
Welcome to our Experts Corner, where we interview a wide range of guests who have incredible backgrounds. And today I'm very happy to introduce Liz Meinhofer, who is a certified public accountant and founder of Financial Clarity Academy. Financial Clarity is an online academy that teaches everyday people a simple 6-step system to help them manage and organize their personal finances. Twice in her life, crises knocked on Mara's door, and she was able to handle crises differently, given that each time she had more than $100,000 saved and no credit card debt. Wow. When Mara realized that those around her hardly had $1,000 in savings, she decided to teach others the exact same no more budgets formula that she created to save more than $200,000 while she was a salaried employee. Mara Liz Meinhofer has an MBA in finance and a bachelor's in business administration and accounting. She's a certified money coach, certified financial education instructor, financial therapist, TEDx speaker, and international keynote speaker. Thank you so much, Mara, for coming on to our show. We like to just jump right into the questions, but again, thank you so much for coming aboard.
Very happy to be here. Congratulations, guys, for this initiative. I'm loving it.
And so we're just going to jump right in. And, I think as well as our audience, would love to know 2 questions right off the bat. Where are you from and what languages do you speak?
I am born and raised in Puerto Rico. Right now I'm in Puerto Rico. You can see the background here from my window. I speak English, Spanish, basic French, and I'm starting to learn Portuguese.
Oh. Oh, so you're
great.
starting to learn Portuguese. Why? Are you based in Puerto Rico or in Portugal or Brazil, maybe?
So yeah. So I got recently married a month ago, and my husband lives in Portugal, and I live in Puerto Rico. So part of the arrangement was to spend time together in both places. So I'm spending a couple of months of the year in Portugal, so that's why I'm learning Portuguese as well, and he's learning Spanish. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you're probably very aware, but our podcast, our cast is really for expats, people who are learning languages, and really anybody who wants to learn anything that they're not experts on. So certainly your background and being an expert on financial management and personal finance is really interesting. But, what are some of the pluses and minuses of being an expat, right? You said that you kind of split time between Portugal and Puerto Rico. What do you find those pluses and minuses to be?
I love this question. It's fascinating because I think that sometimes, the expat life is great, but it's romanticized. And sometimes not many people speak about the potential downsides, right, of being an expat. And let me tell you, this lifestyle is by choice. I have chosen to be an expat. I always wanted to live in Europe. God gave me, or whatever name we want to call him, a great man who lives in Europe. So it just happened that we decided to spend time in Puerto Rico and in this case in Portugal as well, right? So it's by design. It's what I want in my life. I want the freedom. I love the exploration. My business, everything is built around that. However, it does bring some layers of complications, as I'm sure you guys know. So just to give you a couple of examples. So right now, my main client base is in Eastern time zone in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And I spent COVID in Portugal.
Oh.
So I was teaching my students at midnight Portugal time and 7 p.m. Puerto Rico time.
Wow.
For weeks. So that was exhausting, right? So dealing with the time difference, the time zone, and not just the time zone, it's very important for me because I teach finance. So I want to come energetic and happy and ecstatic. So at my midnight, I have to show up like fully present, and that can be a little bit exhausting. Trying to find places to work from. So I work from home, right? And sometimes before COVID times, right, it would be really nice to explore the city and work from cafes. But that also has its downsides. It sounds like really beautiful, but you go to this one, the Wi-Fi is not working, you don't speak the language, you have to leave after 30 minutes, and then you walk and it started raining. Yes.
Oh, wow. So
it has ups, like you said, ups and downs.
Understood. So at the moment, you said something very interesting, right? You're teaching a lot of courses in finance at the moment, right? So let's go, before we get into those courses, we want to learn about your origin story. Like, how did you learn how to be so good with money? When did you get into that?
Listen, guys, I always love to spend. That's where everything's coming from. I love to spend. I love to travel. I love the freedom that money gives me, and that's something that I just had it in me as someone that's curious and passionate. I want to have options and know. So money helps you do that. So coming from that place of freedom, it was just things just honestly aligned very easily for me because I'm very good with numbers. One of the things that I love the most, I absolutely love numbers. So ever since I was very young, I was counting my money without anyone asking me to do it, right? And then it's crazy, right? And then when the Excel spreadsheets came out, like more than 20 years ago, I would play my computer, like, with these worksheets, and I would play with numbers. So I would play with my money. So how much came in, how much came out? So I was just playing around. And that combination of those two things, unintentionally led me to saving a lot of money. I created my own formula to save money. I was saving money. I was spending money. So it was just, to be honest, just my personality traits and the things that I liked and I loved led me to save money and then want to teach about it. Yeah, that's the summary. Very, very Cliff Note version.
Yeah, that's a very nice Cliff Note. Reeks.
That's actually a great segue into my next question. So clearly you had a lot of I think, natural curiosity, and it sounds like you just innately had this curiosity with numbers and wanting to know how money works. But did you have any mentors along the way, whether that be people or books or really any exposure to personal finance, or was this really just through independent experience and just kind of figuring out things on your own and just sort of like, constantly editing and having your little laboratory, if you will, of perfecting your formula?
You know what's crazy? So my formal education, I have a bachelor's in accounting, a business degree in accounting, have a master's in finance. I am a certified public accountant, and no one ever gave me a personal finance class.
Oh, that's strange.
Right. So then, and this is something that I love sharing with the public, is I want people to know, like, listen, no one teaches us about these things. And I tell them, not even myself, I am a professional in this field, and I did not receive any education around this. Just, for purposes of closing the loop, what happens with these three examples that I gave you is that they teach you how to manage the finances of a business.
Okay.
That's what you learn when you study accounting and finance in college. And that's what you learn when you become a certified public accountant, how to handle the finances of business. But the finances of your business are completely different than the finances than your personal finances. So I didn't get any information around my personal finances. So as Rico was saying, it was a combination. I had my own laboratory of how things worked for me. And then with time, I created my own formula. Things were working for me. It was very homemade, nothing, too sophisticated. I was just saving money and spending money. And then at some point, I had some very difficult moments in life that led me to do the shift of saying, hey, you have to share this. You've enjoyed the benefits for so long. The people around you need to know this, because if no one taught you, no one taught them. And at that point, I started getting more formal education. I've read more than 50 books around personal finance, and I made sure that I could build a very solid proposition, which is mainly my homemade system, but with the all these different contributions on how to make it better. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. I want to go back a little bit, because you I know in your TEDx you speak about some of the things that inspired you to teach others. But do you want to talk about one of those particular moments, just so that our audience gets a little taste? I mean, they should check out the TEDx, but it would be good.
Yeah, so I did a TEDx talk, and the name is "How to Get Yourself Out of Crisis." And if anyone's interested, that's the URL to find it. How to Get Yourself Out of Crisis. And what happened, I can speak about that now. This is the thing. Studies say that we will experience 5 to 7 traumatic events in life. And I'm not talking about money right now. Let's put money, on the side. I'm just talking about life. 5 to 7 traumatic events that can go from losing your job, having a difficult illness, losing someone that you love, all this, divorce, having children, not that it's traumatic, but they have a lot of impact in your life, right? So what happened was, I lived a very healthy, beautiful life, generally speaking, easy, healthy. I was raised in a very healthy, home. And when I had my first crisis, I had two, but this really, really, really significant. I was in my late 30s, and it just devastated me. So the story that I share in the talk is how I overcame that crisis. And it's a very personal story. I'm going to do the Cliff Note version.
Yeah.
I was in a relationship. My story starts with love. I was in a relationship, and things started getting a little bit odd. I was not sure what was going on, but it was like, and then, the long story short, I suddenly discovered that my partner, he was going behind my back, and he was having a relationship with an escort. He was living with an escort.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's devastating. Yeah.
And that just completely shook my life, my everything, right? And because because thank God I didn't have that many hard experiences in life before. I didn't know necessarily how to handle it, right? So then what happened at that moment is that I had to take an entire year for myself. I had to go to therapy. I had to see my family. I could not get out of bed. It was like really traumatizing. And at that time, when that happened, I looked at my bank account, and I had more than $130,000 saved.
Wow.
So that's what the crisis connects with the money, right? And there were still lessons I needed to go through, right? Because I do believe that all crises, they're trying to teach us something. But the fact that I had all that amount in savings, I didn't work for a year. I could pay for the therapy that I wanted to pay. I spent 2 months in Mexico. I spent time in Miami. I spent 2 months in Europe, because really, I love to travel, right?
Yeah.
I went to see my mother. I went to see my best friend, So I do believe that we can help ourselves. We can help ourselves, because life is not always easy. We all know this by experience, and you can make it easier for yourself if at least you have some money saved. You don't need to have $100,000 saved, but at least have some money saved. It does bring freedom and cushion and peace. So that was one of the reasons when I said, okay, I need to teach this because it's helped me so much. And I knew, looking around me, from my sisters, my family, my friends, they could be served by this. You know, they can also, they should learn what I've learned. So that's part of why I decided to. So I had my entire career in corporate and the government, and then I did the shift, and that's when I decided to start my own business, which today is a financial education company, and I have been at it for, it's going to be my 5th year now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for being willing to share such a personal story. I think that I think we can all relate to personal crises and trauma, and I think it's really interesting to kind of think about it in this notion of we're going to experience maybe 5 to 7 of these, maybe some fewer, some more. But it's really amazing that you have really been able to not only overcome that, but to really thrive and to, you know, create what you've created. And so the question I was going to ask you is, you know, what are some tips or suggestions you have for the audience? But maybe you have one tip for how to overcome crisis, and maybe one tip in getting started and learning about better financial management, personal finances.
Absolutely. I love this. Okay. So first, I would love to share a tip on how to overcome crisis that has nothing to do with finances. It's just my very hard-learned experiences.
Okay.
And tons of money invested in therapy and support.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've learned is that when you encounter yourself with the challenging, unexpected moment, let's define crisis as something that's unexpected, right? Something that really helped me was the questions that you ask yourself during that crisis. And I'm going to give you an example. Those questions they will shape how you either thrive or just stay mirrored in that crisis. So for example, let's say that, you know, your boss calls you and say that you're fired, right? So
yeah,
which has happened, you know. Yeah, you know, many of us, I've lost my job too. You know, many of us have lost our jobs in different contexts, right? So, but it's very different when that happens. If you ask yourself, how did I contribute to this? You know, and that's a very powerful question, because that question allows you to see what you could have done better, so you do not repeat it in the future. Okay, it's not about blame. It's not, oh, I did this because I'm just so dumb. That's not going to take you anywhere. It's not about blame. It's about taking responsibility. And even if the answer to that question is, I got fired, but I had nothing to do with it. Let's say it was COVID. Let's take the example of COVID. I got fired. It was due to COVID. I didn't have any responsibility in me getting fired. However, you can always dig deeper. Did they fire everyone at my level? Or it was 5 accountants, let's say I'm an accountant, and they only fire me. Why did they keep the other 4? Could I have had a better performance? You know, could I have, you know, it's always important to know what your role is. So with that, you know, what I'm giving you is an example of the questions that you ask yourself are very powerful. Because if you ask yourself, why did this happen to me? Why? It turns into a victim of circumstances. Why that external thing happened to me? I am the victim and I'm powerless, versus what did I do? Right? It's a completely different question that can help you learn from that crisis and get out of it. Very painful.
Yeah.
It's really painful. It's extremely painful, but you want to stay in that pain for 3 years, or you want to stay in that pain the amount necessary and just move on to the next, you know? So asking your question about what do I recommend when it comes to one thing that I would recommend the audience around how to handle crisis is be very mindful of the questions you ask yourself.
Okay. That's a great question.
And then if you don't mind sharing just one tip about personal finance as well. I mean, you know, obviously you built it sounds like a whole career, or at least, you know, your own business now. And I'm sure you're, of course, very aware of financial difficulties people are having now, especially due to COVID and the pandemic, especially in the United States and specifically in Puerto Rico. But what is maybe one tip that you think could help people in this time of crisis, but related to personal finance?
Ask for help, get help. because again, there's a lot of, this is the thing when it comes to money and not being smart with your money, there's a lot of shame and guilt and anxiety around that. And we all think about money all the time. It's just that we don't talk about it.
True. Very true.
You don't really go, you don't go into your Christmas dinner and ask, your brother-in-law, hey man, how much do you have in debt? It's not a sexy conversation. And then what happens is that it's such a difficult topic, and how do you say it in English? Put under the rug when you
exactly. Yeah.
You have to sweep it under the rug.
Exactly. You sweep it under the rug.
You sweep it under the rug, and then what happens? You start thinking, I am a mess. I am the only one that's going through this, and then you start blaming yourself. And first of all, 99% of the population is going through it because none of us got any education or own finance. Okay, so first of all, grant yourself some grace. It is what it is. No one taught you. But now that you granted yourself some grace, then you can do something about it. And even if you didn't learn anything about school, there's so many resources out there. So many. So try to overcome the fact that, personal finance is not sexy. It's not sexy, but having money is, and having no credit card debt is, right? And it can help you sleep at night. So the one thing I would say is get some help. Don't be afraid to ask, and just go to Google. There's blogs, books, courses, seminar, and something just to wrap up, right? Really, really important in regards to this topic is there's many people speaking about personal finance.
Yeah.
It's not new. It's just like speaking about health, right? But what happens is that I had a mentor who said, there's no unique messages, there's unique messengers.
Yes, very good. Very good. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
There's no unique messages, there's unique messengers. So whatever I teach about personal finance is not going to be a brand new discovery, but your vibe attracts your tribe.
Exactly.
To find someone who speaks your language, because I do believe that, I know you guys also deal with instructors and teaching and learning. I do believe that the instructor has a responsibility to really transmit the education to their students, right? So find an instructor that resonates with you. And when you find that click, you're going to learn personal finance. And once you learn it, you cannot unlearn it. It's done. It's like brushing your teeth. It's done. Next, focus on living your life now.
Oh, that's an excellent piece of advice, Myra. It's just, right on point, because I have that feeling that our goal with Learneezee is to introduce our audience to great experts, teachers, and instructors, and we believe that that's the best way to learn, through helping them connect with people that they can feel really close to, and it helps with the learning process, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. That's why I'm so happy to be here, and I congratulate you, because there's so much knowledge that we can share with each other, right? We're all little experts on something that no one else is. So I can be served by what Patrick teaches, by what Rico teaches, So having these platforms where people can know what's available for them, it does change his lives, So.
Awesome. And so to get to, kind of the end of our little interview here, I wanted to ask you about this project that you were working on. You told me it was a top secret, and you wanted to talk about it. It had something to do with helping your countrymen in Puerto Rico. Can you give us a little bit of a hint of how that project's going? And,
Absolutely. There's oh my God, today I'm just completely forgetting all the sayings, something about luck makes opportunity, or opportunity meets luck, something around that. I don't remember what the saying is, but so I developed my own online course in English and Spanish. I've been teaching and testing it for 5 years, right? Slowly. First you start with one person, and you go to 5, 10, 50, 100, 200, you keep growing.
Yes.
And now, it reached a point that I have graduated thousands of students. I have a product that works, right? Because I've been fine tuning over the years, because what works for me may not work for Patrick. If Patrick is, in the example, if Patrick is my student, I need to build something that helps him, right? So I've been fine tuning my product. And then what happened was that COVID hit. And what happened with COVID? Not everyone is going to get infected by the virus, but everyone's finances have been affected.
Yeah.
Right? So now there's tons of statistics, people saying, that they believe that the COVID crisis, more than a health crisis, has been a financial crisis. So this was my opportunity to serve, right? Because I have one of the things that people need is proven, is tested. I'm ready. I've been in the online space for years. This is not new for me. This is not my first rodeo. So what happened, just to make the long story short, is, when the COVID crisis hit, I was like, how can I help my people? I'm from Puerto Rico and I was in Portugal, and all my material was mostly in English. I was doing very little stuff in Spanish. But when COVID hit, I was like, I need to help my people. My island is this small, and not, United States is big. There's so many people speaking personal finance in the United States, but in Puerto Rico, I was like, there's no one. I have a gig with my people, and I started doing free videos, just explaining like the tax incentives, like the not the tax incentive, the COVID incentives, the $1,400, all that kind of stuff.
Great.
And those videos got me 400,000 views.
Wow.
For free. I was just in the middle of COVID. I was not making any money at the time because I was not selling anything. I was just teaching, helping. 400,000 views. I didn't, before that, I haven't even had 500 views in the video.
Wow.
So amazing. Then what happened? Yeah, when I had that exposure, right, and I was started being recognized in Puerto Rico, we created an opportunity with a not-for-profit organization, and at that moment I said, hey, I have what our people need. I have this course. How can we make it accessible to them? Both, let's make it cheaper. So because people don't have any money right now, would you sponsor the course so people can afford it? Let's teach them Spanish, and let's go knock every single door on TV, on radio, so they speak about this course. Wow. And God, that's exactly what happened. We got the money. Every single TV channel in Puerto Rico, we had tons of press and coverage. And at that point, we helped 500 families.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing, Mara.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm super happy. And now for 2021, I have a couple more of those. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's been an incredible interview for us. We really appreciate your taking the time out of your day. I know, obviously, right now with everything that's going on, especially, it's tough. But we really enjoyed learning a lot about you as a person, your background, and we appreciate your tips. If people want to know more about you and your program, how can they get in contact with you?
Yes, so they can find information at financialclarityacademy.com. Again, financialclarityacademy.com. And the other link that we mentioned before was my TEDx talk that doesn't have anything to do with money, which is that terrible situation. And that one is how to get yourself out of crisis.com.
It couldn't be more apropos, I think, with everything going on in the world. So, I mean, this has just been, I think, two things that people can really relate to, personal finance and how to better manage your money, especially in times like now where it's a pandemic, it's a crisis, and how to get out of crisis. So thank you so much, Mara, for coming on
Thanks,
to our show. We really appreciate this. Patrick, did you have any additional questions you wanted to ask?
After we finish the video, then I'll ask one more question. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mara. Really appreciate it. Okay.
My pleasure. Delighted to be here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Wow, that's got to be one of the best interviews to date, without a doubt. I think Mara is a very accomplished woman, a very obviously successful and intelligent, and to see what she's doing with her community is really, I think, extra special, especially at this time when there's so much happening in the world that doesn't seem to be going right. But that brings us to an end of another great show.
Yep.
Pat, I love working with you, of course, and continue to find these amazing guests that you and your team in Germany are bringing to the table and forefront.
Thank you, Rico.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the next episode and our next guest. So, but that's it for this week's episode.
Yep. Keep learning easy. Okay, ciao, guys.